Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 735A, and today's date is August 5th, 2015, and the title of this episode is U.S. Government Puts Pressure on IMF to Delay Decision of the Yuan as a Reserve Currency. Now, before I get started, I just want to make a short announcement. Tomorrow, Thursday, I'll be putting up an interview with Trey Knippa. He has been on the Chicago Mercantile Exchange for about 18 years. I interviewed him, and if you are on the X22Report.com alert system, you will get an alert email. If you signed up to YouTube, the X22 Report Spotlight channel, you should get a notification from them. If not, you can come right to the YouTube channel, type in X22 Report Spotlight, you can go right to the video, or you can come to the X22Report.com site. The video will be on the right-hand side. You can view it there. You can click on it, make it larger. You'll be able to view it right there on the right-hand side. Let's get right into the economic collapse financial news. Now, we've been talking about the Eurozone, how it is not recovering whatsoever. We know that S&P already downgraded the Eurozone. And we're getting more and more information out there that the Eurozone is not doing well. Now, of course, the powers that be, those people that basically were not elected, they're trying to convince everyone that there's a recovery going on. And when we look at this information that we're receiving, we see there is no recovery. Unemployment's rising, youth unemployment's rising, countries are defaulting. And we're starting to see that different areas in the Eurozone, they're not doing well. Retail sales in the Eurozone fell more sharply than expected in June. This is a fresh sign that the economic recovery is not working. But we all knew this. We knew it wasn't working. We understand that the Eurozone is made up of many countries, and many of these countries are in a huge amount of debt. But when we look at this and we take the European Union statistics, we see retail sales in the 19 countries fell by 0.6% in June from May. Eurostat said sales in Germany were down 2.3% from May. What are we seeing? We are seeing a slow and steady decline of the system. And it's getting worse. Actually, when we look back and we go back to this year, let's just go back to this year in 2015 in January, after the holiday season. All we have seen is things continually decline. We see retail, housing. Now, of course, the corporate media and everyone else who believes that we're in a recovery is going to say, no, it was improving and all of a sudden it just came down. No. What's happening is you are believing their illusionary numbers. The real information, the real numbers, showed differently. This is why we're seeing it right now. This is why we see the collapse accelerating. It just didn't happen right now. This has been happening. I've said this in the past. This is a central banker's economy. Has nothing to do with the people. The people are wiped out. Yes, there's a few people who are still working, still making a living, but you have to remember, and I don't wish anything on anyone. I mean, for those people who have been laid off, you know what it feels like. I've been laid off. I know what it feels like. I know what it feels like to have absolutely no money coming in whatsoever. Actually, to have no place to live at one point in my life with my children. So when people tell me I don't understand, I do understand. I understand where you're coming from. I feel for you. And yes, people did blame it like, well, maybe it was something you did. Maybe you didn't do it right. Well, no. I was following the rules like everyone else. And it hit me. Now, other people were fine. But what I'm afraid of this time is those people who have already lost those jobs. Those people have already been laid off. This next round, when it really comes crashing down, those people who think they're secure, they're not going to be. And it's going to be a very difficult situation for them. Because you have to remember, the first round in 2008, many of the people, and I've been receiving a huge amount of emails from so many different people telling me their stories, how they had a great job, they own many different homes, and then all of a sudden they lost everything in 2008, and they could never really get back on their feet. And this time around, who's left in the working place? Those people who weren't really affected. But guess what? This time it's going to happen to them. And we have to remember, this time it's going to be worse. Why? Because the U.S. government, central bankers, have made it worse. I mean, look at the numbers from ADP that just came out. July printed weak at 185,000 against expectations of 215,000. Now, we know a lot of companies have been laying off. We know a lot of companies, big corporations have been laying off tens of thousands of people. It's not just like a couple hundred here or there. This is the biggest miss since March. This is around the lowest level of the year and lowest since the first quarter of 2014. It is also 20% lower than the 232,000 ADP print a year ago. What are we seeing here? Well, let's see. We have retail contracting, manufacturing drying up, factory orders declining, housing, and I've said this over and over, and I see it's getting worse. I know people think it's getting better, but it starts from the outer areas and moves inward into the cities. And I see big problems. I see houses on the market longer and prices coming down faster and faster. We're in the month of August right now. You know what happens when we reach fall and winter. Housing collapses during that period. And what do you think is going to happen this time? It's going to be even worse. So when we look at this, we see manufacturing jobs have declined. We see construction jobs, employment for construction, declining. Now they're telling us we're in this housing boom. New home construction, awesome. Existing home sales, awesome. Prices are continually going up. Why are we seeing sales decline in home furnishings, lumber, construction jobs declining? What does this tell us? This tells us we are not in a recovery, and it's accelerating right now. And of course, the U.S. government, central bankers are out there trying to convince us that, no, everything's fine. We just want a little bit of inflation. That's it. If we just had a little bit of inflation. I'm sorry, but I see inflation everywhere. And we are constantly bombarded with two messages from the U.S. government, central bankers. Inflation is near zero. And the second message is, this worries the Federal Reserve terribly. Well, when you look at what's been going on here, we already know food has continually gone up. And for those people who say, no, food is exactly the same. Look at your ingredients. Look at the sizes of the product. They shrink it. They remove ingredients. They substitute ingredients to try to keep the prices stable. When they can't do that, they eventually have to raise the price. But if we look at other things, like the cost of other things since 2000, we see that the consumer price index is up 38% since 2000. So what are we seeing? Well, we see rents are up 56% from 2000. That's inflation. We see state and local government taxes are up 75% since 2000. College has risen about 100% since 2000. So what are we seeing here? We are seeing prices continually go up. We are seeing inflation. And guess what? Income, wages, not keeping up whatsoever. Actually, $1 in economic growth now takes $4 in debt. Because you have to remember, this is how the entire system is run. It is run on debt. That's it. The more debt you have, the central bank says this is fantastic. It's great for the economy. No, it's great for them. It's not good for an economy. And we're starting to get a lot of warnings from many people that we're approaching something really big. And we feel, I feel it. I'm sure you feel it. Something is coming. We already see the U.S. government is out in Syria, pushing war. And we're starting to get information like from Doug Casey. He stated that we're heading for a catastrophe of historic proportions. Bill Flankenstein, he warned us back in 2007 about the 2008 crash. And he says U.S. markets could be headed for a calamity in the coming months. Richard Russell believes that the bear market that is coming will tear apart the current economic system. Larry Edelson is 100% confident that a global financial crisis will be triggered within the next few months. Mark Farber suggests that the U.S. stocks could soon plummet by 40% or more. We know this cannot be sustained. They're going to do whatever they possibly can. But as soon as we see the Fed, and I think this is part of their plan, as soon as they go ahead and they say, okay, we're going to raise interest rates, and they actually really do it, we know this is the start of them bringing down the economy. Because there is no way that this economy is going to be able to take an increase in interest rates. Now, I'm not saying that they're going to bring it up to 5%. They're just going to nudge it up a little bit. Let it play out a little bit longer. Nudge it up a little bit longer, a little bit more. And then when things start to fall apart, because we saw this back in 2007. When the interest rates went up, all of a sudden people couldn't afford their mortgages. Things were happening in the stock market. Things started to fall apart. And all of a sudden everything unraveled by October. Got worse in 2009. I think once we see this, this is the signal to us that yes, they are doing it. Unless something else happens and something occurs out of their control, because that can happen too. Now, we understand that the United States government has placed more sanctions on Russia. And Russia right now is drafting a bill to add 7 more countries to the food embargo list. They're drafting a proposal to extend its food embargo to these countries: Albania, Montenegro, Norway, Iceland, Liechtenstein, Ukraine, Georgia, because they went along with the sanctions. And now their agricultural foods will be banned. Now, I have been talking a lot about the Yuan, renminbi, becoming a reserve currency. And I've said in the past that the United States is going to do whatever they possibly can to try to stop this. And we see there's already political pressure on the yuan to make it not a reserve currency. And right now, the IMF has now taken the position that it should put off any move to add the yuan to its special drawing rights. Maybe they'll look at it in November. Or, if they still see the same thing occurring, maybe September of 2016. They don't know yet. And we knew this was going to happen. We knew it was going to happen sooner or later, where the United States put pressure on the IMF to stop this from happening. Now, we've been talking a lot about illegal aliens and how they're being brought into this country for many different agendas. And right now, Senator Jeff Sessions basically came out and looked at all the work permits that were issued to the illegal aliens. And he's saying that, wait a minute, we're above what the law allows us to do. We are beyond the limits. And he's saying that this is lawless. This is a lawless printing press of worker permits. The administration right now has issued more than 7.4 million work permits to foreign nationals from 2009 to 2014. Beyond the approximately 1 million lawful permanent residents and 700,000 foreign guest workers admitted to the U.S. each year. So, what are we seeing? They need these people here in the United States because It allows them to keep the economy running. It keeps debt inflating. It keeps the corporations happy because they're not penalized by Obamacare. They don't have to pay that $3,000 penalty. These people can take out auto loans, student loans. They can buy a house. This whole entire thing is an illusion. This is not going to help the economy. Yes, in their numbers, in their statistical numbers, it will help. In the long run, guess what? The country is still not manufacturing, producing, and there is just too much debt. It cannot be sustained. We have proof of this from Greece, Cyprus, and all the other Eurozone countries that are in a huge amount of debt, and it cannot be sustained. It doesn't matter if there's a printing press or they just push a button and create the money. It makes no difference, because as you continually add this, the value of the dollar goes down. Now, of course, all they're doing right now is issuing this to banks and Wall Street, making them very, very wealthy. None of this is really hitting the everyday man, and this is why we don't see massive inflation right now. But sooner or later, as people find it harder and harder to find work, as people find it very difficult to survive, this system will not be able to operate anymore. It will completely fall apart. And this is what we're seeing right now. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.